Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history. Today we're going to be taking a look at this amazing old farmhouse behind me. This one's really incredible because it's actually connected to me. My grandmother actually lived in this house in the early 1940s up until about 1946. Obviously this house is abandoned now. I got permission from the lady who owns this house, who also went to school with my grandmother and remembers her very well. She gave me permission to document this house, so we're going to take a look. So we're going to take a look at this house. It's interesting to see that it's sitting on logs, old stumps here for the foundation. Now there's not a whole lot of rock down in this county, which could account for that. It is built out of square nails too, which is interesting to see. I would have thought that it would have been round nails, maybe post 1880. Square nails are, generally speaking, square nails help you date a structure because they are prior to 1880. So this may be very early 1870s or very late 1870s or early 1880s. Looking at the overall design of the house, I would think it would be between the 1870s and 1880s. And just think, it's been sitting on that wood for all that time. In the 1870s. There's another one down there. Another stump it's sitting on. And I'm really excited to jump in and see this house and see a place where my grandmother lived as a child. She was 12 years old when they moved to the family farm that my great Uncle Horace bought after World War II in 1946. So she lived here when she was pretty young. And I was just about to comment on the beadboard on the outside of the house on the eave there. That's pretty interesting. So I'm really excited about this one. Just gotta make sure I slow down so I don't miss any details. And I gotta figure out how to step inside of it here. Now it is interesting, there's round nails on the porch here, so that was probably some work was done at a later time. And it's soft. So we're going to do our best not to fall through. Again, we've got square nails on the boards here. Look at that. Handprints coming down right there. Well, it's only a little bit spooky. Beadboard ceiling for the porch here. I've got to say, this house is in better shape than I thought it was when I first pulled up to it. All right, let's go inside though. There's your old screen door lock right there. And it's missing the front door. Now look at that, there's a pretty piece of furniture right there. I've actually got almost that exact same mirror top. Just the top though. All right, so we've got the beadboard. On the inside it was electrified, probably maybe during the rural electrification. Now some rooms that are definitely not in the best shape in the world. And the owner told me that she's been using this place for storage. And these church pews came out of an old African American church. And she bought these when they replaced the pews. She was telling me that she bought these pews and put them and they were loaned to the campaign for Jimmy Carter. And then when they were done with them, they brought them back in here. But they came out of an old African-American church, and when the church replaced the pews, they put these out in the field. And then she wound up buying them and then loaning them to the campaign for Jimmy Carter. So all sorts of history contained there. And look at the big old square nails. It's all square nail construction. Look at those big old square nails in the side there. So that's probably pretty early pew for sure. Beadboard walls on the inside. This house was very nice. Very fine built house. Now this was originally known as the Webb House. When it was originally built. There's another one of pews. Closet here. Closet space. Making sure nothing's going to jump out at me. Standing in here, I know I've been in a lot of old houses. And usually we see these old houses and think about the people that might have lived in them, but to actually think that, you know, my grandmother lived here in the 40s is actually pretty powerful. And of course, my grandmother was a young girl then. She was 12 when they moved away. And so my great-grandparents, they were the ones who made the decision to move here. I got distracted because I wasn't expecting that. Right there, that wall's just gone there. I stopped for a minute because I hear something hissing at us. There's an old buzzard in the roof. Look at the wall paint in here. The color of the walls. And then we got a very clear view of the attic there. See the construction. It looks like this originally had a wood shingled roof on it. The boards that the tin are attached to, I forget the technical name for them, are very close together. So you see that with all the wood shingled structures. And again, this lovely green paint on the walls. That's a chimney for an old cook stove or wood burning stove right there, which is interesting because there's another one right there you can see up in the attic. So they had a wood stove in this room and that room. I'm thinking that room may have been a kitchen though. Looking at all the, kind of see, doesn't look like it was ever painted. It looks like there's kind of soot on the walls. Just trying to take our time So we look through here. That was a bathroom addition right there. The additions are always the first to go with these old houses. I actually look forward to walking around the outside of it too. It's much bigger than I expected. And my great-grandparents would have just rented this house. They were victims of the Great Depression. In the 1930s, they lived on the county farm, which is where my grandmother was born. And that's probably the poor farm on the county that was set up for victims of the Depression. That wall right there is kind of scary. We'll just hope nothing falls down on us. This room is unpainted. And it's interesting, I was looking at it wondering if it might have been an addition, but the styling very, very obviously matches the rest of the house. The floor is sunken in here. So if we fall through, we won't have far to go, at least. There's an old power box. That's where power came into the house right there. It is interesting that this room was never painted. See all the unpainted beadboard. Inverted cross door there. So I'd say definitely 1870s. Maybe early 1880s, could even go into the 1890s, you know. The round nail versus square nail build date is just an estimation, of course. Square nails were very quickly replaced by round nails because when the technology to make them was invented in the 1880s, they were just easier and much cheaper to make. The old square nails or cut nails. Definitely some little leaks in here. Now this room just looks spooky. And when I say spooky, I don't necessarily mean in the, ghostly way, but this side of the house right there has seen a lot of water damage. And those boards, you can just see where the roof is just leaning in. But that's okay. There's a buzzard living in the attic up there. That wall right there. So this wood has gotten wet. And it looks like termites have moved in. I'm taking my steps slowly. Now we've got to compare this to other rooms in the house. This is real narrow tongue and groove flooring here. You see how thin that board is? Normally we see them about that thick, but these are real small strips of the old pine flooring. We'll have to see if that matches the rest of the house. And I just want to see if that's where termites have moved in after the wood got wet. This old pine, when it gets wet, the termites will move in. Those are round nails in there. So this may be an addition over here if the rest of the house is square. Just an early addition, early enough that they still have the beaded board to match. Let's see if we can look in this corner here. Now this small round nails. So that's not beaded board, that's just flooring. That's what we'd call ceiling. And that's a double beaded board. So it was built, I'd definitely say it's an addition. It's not as trimmed and nice as the other parts of the house. That may also be why we have two different flues for the cook stove. That may have been the original kitchen there, is what I would imagine. and then this was added on. All right. Let's see, so over here in this room, same narrow flooring. And, you know, I always talk about documenting these places before they're gone, but this one to me is so special because it has some of my history here. They never owned it, but I lived here. So these walls, I'm trying to see if they're, so if this is an addition over here, an early addition, which I believe it to be, I see round nails up there around this door trim. And if you look up at the top, you see that it's got this little trim piece that runs around the top up there, and then it stops there and doesn't have it over here. I just almost jumped out of my skin. Big bird. Big bird scared me. I thought someone was looking back at me over here. Okay, I've already been in this room. Let me just make sure I slow down and pan this whole room. Make sure we document this in full, because one of these days, sooner rather than later, this house will turn into just a memory too. While my grandmother was still living, she revisited this house. And also visited the house that her brother, who was drowned when he was only 17 years old, she revisited the house that he was born in. And that was not that long ago, relatively speaking, and the house that her brother was born in is long gone now. Well, not long gone, but it is gone now. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to make sure I document this one. And I wish I could have documented that other one. So we're back to square nails in the wood here. So I'm going to say that over there, those two rooms, definitely an addition of sorts. This great old table. This was also something that the owner told me was probably used at Jimmy Carter's campaign. All right, so we have a little central hallway. Now that's interesting. That doesn't run all the way to that space out there. There's a little porch. All right, so definitely another one we're going to have to watch our step in this room too. There's the ceiling. We can see daylight up there, so the tin is blown off at some time. You know, isn't it wild to think about? I see these houses, more old houses like this so often, and think about the people that used to call them home, live in a place like this, and think about a family living in here. And Obviously, my family are not the original builders of this house. And they were one of the people who called this place home one time. And if the walls could talk, the echoes of the past could be heard in here, it'd lead right back to me, right back to my own history. What is that? I thought that was a little cherry bomb firework. Okay. So, what did we step on? All right. So I'm not going to go out here. There ain't a whole lot to walk on. Much more electricity for this place. No porch. Old porch. So square nails on the outside here. Okay. Yeah, square nails. All right, we're not going to go out that way. How did I come up here? What was my path? Was it here? Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty solid. All right. Made it out. Still enamored by those big old stumps that the house is sitting on. Isn't that something? All right, let's walk around it. Now it's lost its stump back there. There's nothing on that corner. You can see the erosion too that's around the base of the chimney and under that stump. I was looking to see if the chimney's pulled away from the house. I think it has a little bit. It's just something right here. And I love old houses. I really do, seeing them and documenting them, and I think they're all special and deserving of some kind of documentation. But this one, it amazes me to think about the family connection here. Can't see the house. For the trees. Got a bunch of privet and wisteria back here, on home site plants that are often around these old structures. Oh, look at this angle of this house. Isn't that something? It looks even bigger from here. It looks bigger than it felt on the inside from this angle right here. You can see original construction there. All right, let's try to walk around it. Let's watch out for the open well, which is right there, I think. Is that a well? Well, whatever it is, I see water almost to the top. Got the briars that always bother us right there. And let me see if I can make my way through without getting all the briars on me. Still sitting on the wood stumps back here. Okay, that's just painful. Let's take another route. All right, we got to go through the privet and wisteria jungle here. But I tell you one thing about this wisteria and privet. It grows so tight together that it creates such a tight canopy up there, nothing will grow under it. And it'll give us a okay walking path to get through. We just can't see the house as well as we'd like. All right. All right, here's our little thing here. This may be, I don't know, it's full of water, but that's still water. So, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to find out either. So we can just keep away from that. Now this section back here that I thought was an addition, doesn't that look spooky right there? Looking into this house. From the outside, this doesn't look like an addition, but it must have been. It must have been a very early addition to this house. Whole thing's fallen off its foundation right here, off its foundation stump. It's hard to see. I guess if it is an addition, and it looks like it is because it's round nails over here, but it's an early addition. And it's sitting on wood too. And see, these are round nails for the siding here. Those rooms look so dark and spooky from the outside. Some more electrical. And there we go. Back around to this side. You can't get as far away to get a good wide shot of the house. And that old door right there from the outside. It's a pretty door, screen door too. I like it. All right, now let's just have a peek under the house. You know, we always got to do that. And the wood under here looks exactly like I thought it would. 1870s, 1880s. Looks about the same age as my old house. Well, there it is. Got English ivy growing in the front yard. You can barely see out. And at one time there were no trees around this place and nothing but farmers' fields around it. And just look how big those stumps are that this is sitting on. Those are some old trees. If you think about how long ago this house was built, and they were full-grown trees then, probably long leaves, which take a long time to grow. And there it is. House where my great-grandparents and my grandmother lived, where she was just a child. We moved away from here in 1946. To the family farm. Uncle Horace bought his farm with the money he got from World War II. But they lived here for a time. Just a moment in the history of this old house. Each old house tells a story. This one just happens to tell part of my story. And I think that's really special. I hope you all have enjoyed this documentation of this old, incredible house. Very special to me that I was able to do this. Big thank you to the property owner for allowing me to document this place before it's gone. My own history is in those walls too. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time for another adventure into history.